Today on Twin J Racing, we talk about me and how I became kind of who I am and where I started and where we ended up. So follow along and let's get going. Welcome back everyone to Twin J Racing. I would say we're going to do something a little different here today, but is it really different? We're not in the truck studio, but listening to me talk seems to be a going thing. So today we're going to talk about basically who I am, where I started, kind of how I got here through steps, and where I kind of like to go. But you guys have heard that already, kind of not. But it kind of started when I was younger, obviously. When I was a young kid, my dad always worked on cars. My uncle was a mechanic and stuff like that. So there was always stuff going around cars. I don't really remember it, but my dad had a Vet, a 69 Vet, which he sold when my brother was born, basically, my little brother. My dad had a 73 Le Mans. I believe it was a 73 Le Mans. When we were way younger. I kind of remember that car. And then my mom had a Malibu wagon. This is later on. My mom had a Malibu wagon that had a V6 in it, and my dad hated it. So he put a 350 in it, and I remember being around and helping a little bit with that. And then my Uncle Russell, which kind of took me under his wing and showed me a lot of things about cars and allowed me to start working on cars around him, taking stuff apart, watching, learning, and stuff like that to kind of draw me into it. He had a 69 Nova with Pontiac 455 in it. You know, back then, people swap things, whatever, you know. I know a few people like that. And anyways, so I hung around a lot with him, and his Nova kind of got me into things. And he had an old 75 square body 2-wheel drive truck that we worked on a lot. And a lot of stuff like that kind of really drew me into the car thing. A friend of his had a Mustang 2 with a 302. We worked on that a lot, and just a lot of that all snowballed into me learning a lot about cars and learning what I could from him and different things, and learning, which some I thought was the right way, some I've learned now is the wrong way, but learning about things on cars. And I really, and still to this day, still want a Nova or a Nova-based car. I had a 74 GTO, which was technically my first car, but I got in way over my head with no real help on restoring it. And it needed everything and then some. So we backed down on that, and ultimately it ended up getting scrapped. But that was a long time ago, back when I had little kids and no place to really work on stuff and keep stuff, and it cost me, we can go on forever. But that's kind of where the origin started. And then when I got into high school, I took shop class, and I got around a few people who got me into the Great Lakers Auto Club. And that's where I really started to kind of become my own person. I had a few different cars then and started really hanging out with the people there, which if you're trying to get into cars, and I know it's a dying thing, but car clubs are great. Learn from who you can learn from. You know, that's where I have been grateful. There was a bunch of people, and still are a bunch of people, because I'm still active in the car club, that taught me a lot of things that I didn't know, and helped me learn things that I had no idea on as I was starting in as a gearhead. Because I really wasn't hip, even though it was the late 90s, early 2000s. I really wasn't into the internet. I kind of came along later, like 2010, 2011, somewhere in there. Kind of really started getting into some of the message boards and stuff as they were dying off. But I really, before that, did my own thing, information where I could find it, reading it, magazines, and I didn't even jump on the Facebook train right away. It took me quite a few years. I think I joined it right around 10 years ago now, give or take. So you're talking 2014. So I did a lot of stuff the hard way. Thankfully, there was, like I said, the car club. A lot of people there taught me a lot of things, walked me through a lot of things, explained a lot of things to me. You know, I bought my car, my Cutlass, which is sitting over here. You guys can't see it, but I bought my Cutlass from one of the members there, which had I known when I bought it was going to basically kind of set a tone for my life and some of the people I've met. I wouldn't have done anything different now, but it became who I was, kind of a part of who I was, because there's still people who know me by my car. I mean, there always will be now, but I learned a lot of trial and error with my car. I learned the hard way about valve train geometry and what you have to do to make it right. And a lot of stuff with Oldsmobiles, I learned the hard way, because even when I was coming up then, there's not a lot of people who knew a lot about Oldsmobiles. It was always Chevy stuff, Chevy, Chevy, Chevy. So you kind of have to braze your own trail. Yes, there was the Mondello books, and there was a little here, a little there, but not a lot of information. And that's like even with suspension and everything else, back then at least you talk to people. I know guys who are stock racers, at least in our area here in Northwest Indiana. I talked to some of them who ran A-body GMs and kind of got some stuff and ideas on how to use and what not to use and different tricks and a lot of that kind of stuff, and just a lot of trial and error and learning from your mistakes and learning, who you can listen to. And that's kind of what's brought me to where I am. I learn, I read, I listen, I try to learn from everything. Let's go back to like right out of high school. So late 90s, early 2000s, I had my Cutlass. I've had my Cutlass since high school. So I bought it in 96. Yeah, 1996 for your younger generation. And I had my Cutlass, and I had a couple years later, I had a 77 Chevy 4-wheel drive, 39s lifted. That was my daily driver. I mean, I drove that thing everywhere. And I pulled the race car with it. I pulled my Cutlass. I don't know if we can classify it as a race car, but I pulled my Cutlass with it. And I did a lot of work on that truck. Motors, transmissions, rear ends, transfer cases. Just learning how to fix stuff. Mine had the anemic 10 bolt in the front. Never broke a ring and pinion, but I could change axle joints like nobody's business, because anytime I go mudding, I tear up at least one of those. So a lot of time working on that just taught me a lot of things, and how to do stuff. And that's kind of shaped over time who I am. I got into the diesel world a little later on. I would say, I bought my first diesel in 04, but I was around them a little bit before that. I've been a Power Stroke person. That's pretty much exclusively what I've had. And I've had many OBSs, and then I moved up to the Super Duties. And then, obviously we're still in the Super Duties because that is 99 and up. I've had the 7.3s. I've technically had a 6.0, but it never ran when I had it. I tried to work on it, and then just after about a couple of weeks, I just wasn't for me. I sold it for what I had in it. And then I have two 6.4s currently, which if you watch the channel, I have one and my daughter has one, so I kind of have two of those. The wife has a 6.7 currently, the 2011. I've had a 12 that I sold, and then I had two 17s, which I sold, and then I went back down to the 11 because payments suck on the newer ones. But that's kind of where a little bit of where I started and kind of where I came up. working on different things. My uncle took me to the drag strip for the first time before I could drive, so it had to have been 14 or 15, and I was hooked. And when I got my Cutlass, I wanted to go racing, and it's been a downhill slide ever since then. And the Cutlass is pretty much purpose built almost at this point in time, and it's on the other side of the spectrum. It's not fun to drive on the street. You can drive it to the local cruising down the street, or I drove it 10 miles, 15 miles, whatever it is, from here to LaPorte and back a couple years ago, and it was absolute murder. I won't do that again. Fun car to have, fun car to drive like around town real quick, but not much farther than that. But influences, and I mean, like everybody, I read the Hot Rod magazines, I read the Car Crafts, I read anything I could get my hands on when I was in high school and even pre-high school. Read what I could, took a lot of reading and learning from what I could inside of there and applied it to what I did, and just different things like that to learn. And that's what it's about, is learning everything you can, wherever you can, about these vehicles. I'm not going to claim to be an expert on anything newer. Anything newer with the electronics, I mean, I'm learning every time I have to fix something. I learn. I have a good scanner, or a decent scanner that can data stream, and I watch different datas, and I can start learning how to repair things and what needs to be repaired. But I'm no expert. I don't work on them for a living. I try to maintain my own stuff, which anymore is a chore half the time. As a job, I'm technically a millwright, or a maintenance technician, mechanical at the steel mill, but I kind of have my little niche. I work on mobile equipment, mainly forklifts, some of the electronic carts, but me and them, I'm so with forklifts, diesel forklifts. I can fix the electric forklifts. If it's hydraulic related, I can fix it. If it's part of the electronics, if I can figure it out, I can kind of walk my way through it, but I'm not great at it. And I don't have really good tools at work for the scanning and the communication of those forklifts, because the companies guard those pretty heavily. So I do that, and that's what my daily job is working on that kind of stuff. But overall, I'm not going to ramble forever here. I grew up around cars, and then I got into a really good car club, and I started learning a lot. I got hooked on the drag racing, which is funny because I grew up going to Roundy Round. My dad was a huge Roundy Round fan. We'd go to South Bend Motor Speedway every Friday night, and we would go to the derbies there. And then, my uncle took me to drag strip, and I got hooked on drag racing over Roundy Round. I always wanted a Roundy Round, but I'm glad I never did. I got into the derbies for a while, and I really enjoyed doing the derbies. But it just got to the point where I got tired of building cars all the time. Where I had the Cutlass, which was sitting, especially when I had a young family. Couldn't afford to do that, but we put a couple $100 into a derby car to go out and derby it. It didn't make much sense, and I just kind of gave it up. There's a lot of other reasons I'm not going to get into on here, but that was one of the big reasons. That was one of the two big reasons why I gave up derbies. But they were fun, and now I'm glad I did. The stuff that I see these guys go through to go run just a plain Jane derby, it's absolutely nuts. It's ludicrous to me what they spend to go derby, and to me it's not as fun. I used to mud bog a lot, like I had alluded to. I had a big lifted truck, and that was a lot of fun. But I'm too old. Well, I won't say I'm too old, but I don't feel like going out tromping through the mud, getting stuff unstuck and everything. Doesn't sound like fun to me anymore. Plus, with my back issues, it wouldn't allow me to anymore. That's kind of like a quick overview of where I'm at, where I came from. The future, unfortunately, my future is kind of, I'm not sure, set in stone is the right word, but I got some back issues, which I've kind of talked about, and I'm not going to dwell on it, but I do have some back issues that are very limiting on a lot of stuff. I know you guys see me on here. I do stuff in here, but what you don't see is the edit where I work for 10 minutes and I go sit for 20 minutes or 30 minutes because my back hurts or my leg hurts, or not going to whine, just you don't see both sides of it. I take a lot of breaks because I can only do so much for so long, and then I have to take a break. And ultimately, that is going to be my downfall. But I'm going to keep trying to grow the channel. I'm going to keep trying to do what I'm doing. You know, hopefully you're enjoying it. You know, I'm hoping to grow it to be a bigger channel. I'm enjoying making the videos to the best of my ability. And as it goes along, if you look at even some of the earlier ones, I'm trying to do better. At least I think I'm trying to do better. But I'm trying to make good videos, and I'm hoping overall people are enjoying them. And we're going to try to keep covering, you know, mostly automotive content, but we are going to do some of the, as you've seen, amusement parks and the Fright Fest stuff. And then Winterfest is coming up here at our local park, or semi-local park to me. We're going to go to that and probably videotape some and enjoy. I do still want to talk about a couple of amusement park trips we had this summer. I just haven't gotten to them yet because of the way I got to do it, because I'm not great for taking video, which we've all learned so far if you're following along. We got some big stuff coming for my car. I'm not ready to talk about that yet, but we got parts coming. We got that motor back there to build, but there's that motor there. We're going to do a whole bunch of videos on building that motor. You know, we got a bunch of maintenance items. We got dually bearings to do, which the boxes are sitting right there. And then we got my truck, which needs some work. You know, it just never ends around here. But that's kind of where I'm at. And as a little kind of sidebar on this, I guess, I want to thank my buddy Copper Cutlass. Check him out on YouTube. He's got his channel, and he actually let me invade his channel a few times. And we did a crossover project back a few years ago, Project Enron. Go check out his channel. Go check out them videos. It was a lot of fun. He also let me we did one about, I think, the rear end in my car, and we did my down and dirty cheap disc brake conversion. You know, Blazer rear disc brakes on a GM car. Great cheap conversion, what I have right now. We're going to upgrade the brakes here pretty soon, but that's what's on there now. You know, stuff like that. I did I don't know, probably 5 or 6 videos on his channel. So go check his channel out. Give him a subscribe. Give him a few watches. Like, always watch my stuff. We are going to get to the GTO probably after the first of the year. Hopefully. We unfortunately are not making the kind of ground I wanted to by now. I wanted to have all that cleaned, and the car sitting over there, which we don't see a car, and we don't see any of that cleaned, but I haven't been able to get to it because I've been busy working on all our drivers recently. So that's just been a sinkhole of despair. I was going to say something else, but we'll go with despair. That's been a sinkhole of despair. I can't keep anything running. Like right now, the Jeep is back in here. We have to fix an ABS sensor on that, and a caliper and a few other things, but I'm going to do the ABS sensor tonight. And you know, it's never been ending, and I haven't gotten to the toys, but those are going to have to come here real soon. So thanks everybody. If you've watched to the end of this, I appreciate it. Please like, share, and subscribe. I will stop rambling at this point in time. You guys have a good one, and I will catch you in the next one.